at the end of the day, I mean, what I'm kind of getting is, would you say at the end of the day, this is basically just a recruitment strategy while the cameras are on?
Considering that they have had very few concessions, and most of what they're talking about is how, they shouldn't just toe the party line, and that they want to get rid of, they want to buck the establishment, they want to drain the swamp, but not really classifying other than the two things I mentioned, which was immigration and spending, which are things that, as far as I can see, I don't, that McCarthy has been strong on from a conservative standpoint. Of course, I don't agree with him personally, but
Right.
that's strange because him and Jordan's votes aren't, so far apart on that. It's not like McCarthy's a John McCain, right? McCarthy's not a moderate by any means. So he is compared to a Marjorie Taylor Greene, maybe, but he's not. I would not call him a moderate by any
Yeah.
stretch.
Well, I mean, I think this just shows how far gone this country is, where in any context, John McCain can be considered a moderate. That is
Yep.
that is frightening beyond comprehension. But
Oh, I
that's
agree.
that's where the United States is.
Which I
It's
believe him and
oh,
Biden. If you look at McCain and Biden's records, they're almost identical.
yeah. Well, Biden's a neocon. I mean, people
Yeah.
like it's like Biden is a neocon. Like that's legit what he is. And I've been saying this for like a while. I'm just like, when is it going to stop? Like, is it going to take like a literal Nazi running as a Republican and like Don Jr. to
That's
run as a
already
Democrat?
happened.
It's already happening
We have
in
three
Illinois.
open Nazis in the House right now who are literal Nazis.
Oh yeah. Well, that guy in Illinois ran. He was an open Nazi. He ran with the GOP. And as far as my other thing, what's it going to take? Don Jr. running as a Democrat. If you can tell me the difference politically between Bloomberg and Don Jr., I'm all ears. Let me know the difference. So that thing that I used to say in 2016, and people would roll their eyes at me, it already happened. It already happened. So I got
There is
the answer
no
to my
left,
question.
Ron. There's no left.
Well, I'm
The
aware of that.
Democratic Party is right wing, and they're just as right wing as the Republicans. The Republicans have a lot of pageantry, and there is some really dangerous legislation, but the Democrats aren't stopping it. They're not fighting against it. They vote in line with them most of the time. We have no left. There is no left party in this country, unfortunately. And going toward the extreme right, like you said, as the solution, that's not the solution either. Going to the Freedom Caucus to throw a wrench in the system and be anti-establishment, you're just voting on fascism still. You're not making a change. And so, but that's what they're trying to appeal to. They're trying, because people, the thing is most Americans know this. Most Americans know that there is no left in the country. Most Americans know that there's no difference between the two parties. This is one of the things that I believe it's something like 89% of the country doesn't believe that there's really any difference, and that both parties are corrupt. So it's one of the most popular talking points. Yet the Democrats, because they don't want to, and because they don't care, and because they are right wing, they're not even attempting to reach that. And the sad thing is the Squad voting on it and celebrating Jeffries, just like they gave Biden an A+ scorecard, right? Across the board. The Progressive Caucus is toothless. I mean, it's as toothless as can be.
Well, the only qualifier for that is you have progressive car insurance. Not a lot of people know that.
Is that right?
That's all it takes to get into the Progressive Caucus. If you have progressive car insurance, they let you in.
You got to be a fan of Flo, and then you can get into the Progressive Caucus. That's hilarious. There's no difference, and there's no benchmarks for getting into the progressive. You don't have to support Medicare for all to be part of the Progressive Caucus, for instance.
Isn't that so freaking ridiculous? I mean, and I know we're kind of like getting more into themes now, but whatever, that's okay. Like, I just, in other countries, like the conservatives support universal health care. Like it's just ridiculous. I mean, I think the most prominent thing, if you've never seen the movie Sicko, you should check it out. It's a really good documentary that Michael Moore did, where like when he's talking to that guy up in Canada, And the guy in Canada is talking about like, yeah, it's important. Like everyone has healthcare, I mean, we got to cover everybody, of course, like regardless whether you can pay or not. And Michael Moore goes, okay, so you're like a big radical lefty guy then. And the guy just looked at him like, what are you talking? Like that made no, like, not like of course I'm not, but like he looked at him as if to say, how is that relevant? Like it's as if the guy said, yeah, I like cheese. And he goes, oh, you must be a libertarian. Like, what does that have to do? Cheese is pretty universal. That has nothing to do. Like the guy just got, and he goes, actually, I'd be considered a conservative, but I don't know how that's relevant. Like, it's just not. And I know that in recent years in a lot of countries that is changing. They are politicizing healthcare more because they are, some of the people on the right are starting to take a play out of our playbook, but fortunately their citizenry is smart enough to be like, no, you're not. But
don't
like
take away our health care. That's
so, but
and that's crazy because even poll after poll after poll since 2017, because I helped like lead some of the messaging for the 2017 Medicare for All push. The polls show, and this goes kind of back to this McCarthy vote too, the polls show that most Americans support universal health care. That's just something that's right. Even more than half of Republicans support it, polls show now. So people that identify as Republicans, but 70% of the country identifies as independent, and among independents, it's extremely popular. And so it's one of the most popular policies out there, yet not even the Democrats can support it. And so that just shows us that they're the same, but they're not. The Freedom Caucus isn't going to come out and push for Medicare for All, even though it's popular, but they will latch on to this anti-establishment. And that was one of the things with Force the Vote. Even if you can't get concessions, at least you're showing some pushback for Pelosi, like we saw in 2018, which put Pelosi's feet to the fire a bit. In 2020, there was none of that. It was straight across the board. AOC voted absent the first time. Cori Bush voted no. And so it's her first vote. And I was cheering and I was so excited. And then Cori came back in and voted yes. Granted, that's only one person, but the entire progressive caucus is large.
Yeah, and I mean, they could have made demands. They didn't. And I mean, well, so getting back to the goofy little today's performance. So if they don't settle this today, are they going to like nominate someone else, or is he going to have to give them some concessions? Like, what do you think will happen next? Because it looks like we're not going to have a conclusion today, right? Like,
I think, well, what's very interesting with this vote is that McCarthy lost 2 votes on this next round of votes.
Right. Like
this third round, he's like not getting them, he's losing them.
Okay. I thought you meant he lost 2 rounds. I'm like, yeah, you mean he lost more votes too in the rounds.
3 rounds.
Gotcha.
And then he lost on the third round of voting today, he lost 2 additional votes,
which is funny. I mean, that at least we got like, that is funny. It's like, well, let's put it back up there. How did he do? Shittier. All right, we're gonna try this again. He did shitty and then shittier, but I think if we do nothing different, this is gonna change up. That's
what are the commission? What I haven't even heard. At least when there was a call to action from the progressives that people were asking them for, is like, bring Medicare for All for a vote. Put people on these committees. I don't hear anything like that from the Freedom Caucus. I don't hear anything, and I may be missing something. So folks can correct me out there, but I haven't seen. We want these people on these committees. We want this piece of legislation brought forward. All that they've said is basically, we spend too much money, and the border's in crisis. We need our border fixed, and that's it. But what's the policy? What's Jim Jordan going to do that's different than McCarthy? That's what's so interesting. So I don't know what their concessions would be, Ron.
Honestly, I think you might have nailed it when you're saying you think this is just a performative recruitment tool. I mean, I think your dog agrees. I think everyone agrees.
Thanks, Rhea.
I mean, honestly, because that's the thing that I have trouble wrapping my head around too. Because it's like, like we've established, when it comes to policy, Republicans are hook, line, and sinker. They are in unison. They never really buck each other in the votes. They're pretty, I mean, you have with exception to someone like a Ron Paul or something like that, who I think does genuinely have anti-war views, you know, with exception to like him and like maybe one or two others on occasion. Occasionally Rand Paul does something like that. But outside of that, I mean, they are hook, line, and sinker on everything, on the corporate capture, on screwing over people left and right, on the war machine, and they don't buck at the end of the day. So it's like, what do you want from this guy that he's not offering you? And yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like, this is just a good recruitment opportunity for them. I mean, unless there's some like really concrete, I mean, maybe like they're going to get some committee assignments or something, but it looks like they just want, you know, like they just want to look like the outsider answer, which is, you know, there's no such thing as an outsider answer sponsored by the Koch brothers. That's like that's like a grassroots movement sponsored by Walmart. Like, it's not a thing. It's not real. So
outsider caucus brought to you by Alec.
Yeah, right. So
and it's all corporatism at the end of the day, and it's all the same, but they are brilliant at messaging. And I believe that one of the ways that we've gotten away from that fire that was generated from Bernie, that fire that, you know, people like Nina Turner brought, is that there isn't the messaging, there isn't the rallying, there isn't the, I mean, these Freedom Caucus people, they do what we beg the Squad and others to do, which is use your big platforms, go out on the ground, organize, hold rallies, like do calls to action. They do those things. They're better at it than the progressives are, but also they know that they have more power in doing those things to a certain extent, because that's what everybody wants, what they're doing, who's on Capitol Hill. Because
they go to your neighborhood,
ultimately saves the hegemony.
Yeah, they go to your neighborhoods. I mean, it's like, I know you live in Kentucky, I live in California, but I used to live in Tennessee. So like I do have some experience with like what you're talking about, and like I do remember where it's like, you know, the Tea Party has a hand, and also just the Koch brothers, they have a hand in every campaign from local on up, and they are in your neighborhood, and they are in your face, and they are like pushing their agenda, and they disguise it as like a grassroots thing, and it's very, very effective in so much of this country. Now, part of the reason they're able to do that is because they have the freaking money to do it. That's part of it, and that's a big part of it. But it's like the fact that I think the left and especially the Democratic establishment, which is not the left, but the fact that they don't do that at all, like it's not even close to the scale, like that's how they're able to kind of do this. Because it's like, when you're just going to come off as just this disconnected coastal elite party, which is all that, I mean, when you look at the Democratic establishment, that's all that really is. These are just right-wingers who just want to feel good about themselves. So they want to vote for somebody who's not going to say ridiculous things like Trump does. That's it. That's all it is for them.
Playing right into it instead of like challenging it or having an anti-establishment moment right now, doing something, bucking the system, pushing back against it. And instead they're celebrating and they're like, yay, there's pushback in the Republican Party. Look how disunified they are. Look at how, because they're so out of touch with people that Democrats right now and the heads of the Democratic Party are tweeting out and messaging celebration. And we're hearing mainstream media pundits celebrating. They're celebrating, feeling like this is a win. This is a loss, y'all. They're
still going to get their person. Like, Republicans are still going to get their person.
Yeah.
Like whether it's McCarthy or someone else, it's still going to be like some like, oh, are they going to get us a shitty person or a shitty person or maybe even a shittier person? Like, what are you celebrating?
Right. And the Freedom Caucus gets to look like badasses bucking the system up there, causing the trouble, shaking it up. Right. Which a lot of Americans, a lot of us regular Americans kind of look at that. And even I am kind of like, man, even though I know the mystique behind it, I'm still kind of like jealous. I'm like, I wish that we had progressives up there bucking the system. I wish that we had, this going on right now. I want to see that, right? It's like FOMO a little bit. And even if I'm even feeling that, knowing better, that a lot of people out there are feeling it, but the Democrats are so, and all the representatives, I think they're all the same. So I don't really see Democrat, Republican. Like, I look at the policy the person passes and their votes, and to me, they're all the same. So all of them are just so out of touch. And these Freedom Caucus members are smart enough to use, because they may not be in touch with us, but they're smart enough to see the zeitgeist, right? Mm-hmm. They can see the writing on the wall, while all these other people are so out of touch with regular working everyday people that they're not seeing the writing on the wall, and they're actually calling this a celebration, which to me, it's a loss today for progressive, for leftist policy in general, for leftism, because where's our anti-establishment fight? And that takes us back to legislatively, like we were talking about the other day, local state legislation is important. So run for state houses, run locally. This tells me, again, it just sends that other signal up that the federal level, the House and the Senate, are useless. Mm-hmm. They're useless.
So, in other words, in short, if you were paying attention to the theatrics today and you came here, we had to give you the inconvenient yet true message that the professional wrestling match isn't real. Sorry we had to break it to you. Sorry we had to be the ones to be like, hey, guys, the wrestling match isn't real. And I know in the world of political talk, podcasting, whatever, you kind of have to pretend it's real. But I don't like pretending it's real. I'm not going to pretend it's real because it's just phony. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with professional wrestling. If you like that's all well and good. It takes a lot of physical skill, actually. The difference
I want our Ric Flair and Macho Man Randy Savage. Where are they?
That's just fine. They don't exist. I mean, and that's just fine. The difference is that this professional wrestling, this version of professional wrestling, A, takes no physical skill, and B, denies people health care and is causing war around the frickin' planet. So it's a little more severe, unfortunately.